Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn, and in this video, we're going to do some feedback on Mirzabek's speaking test. So let's get into it. Good afternoon. My name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Good afternoon. Sure. My name is Mirzabek, but you can call me just Mirza.
Cool. Nice energetic start. Of course, this part of the test isn't measured when you're asked your name. It's just to find out your name and what to call you. But still, I like this positive energy at the beginning, this enthusiasm. Okay, thank you, Mirza. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or do you study?
Well, at the moment, I'm doing both. I'm working at a school as an IELTS instructor, and at the same time, I'm preparing to retake my IELTS exams.
Cool, some nice precise language here, right? I'm doing something at the moment. I'm preparing to retake very precise language, all good stuff. Pronunciation feels a little bit staccato. It doesn't feel totally smooth. You do hear a little bit of gaps between syllables like this, just a little bit, but fine.
Because I think it's time to.
Just listen to the intonation, because I think it's time to, because I think it's time, instead of because I think it's time to. So we don't, yeah, it's not fully connected. The intonation isn't perfect. But of course, this is very early in the test.
Re-evaluate myself.
And again, we get that nice use of the prefix re-evaluate myself. Candidate seems fine with this prefix like retake, re-evaluate, all good stuff. Let's talk about your job. What do you like most about your job?
Well, I would say mostly I would very much like that I can work with.
I would very much like that I can work with. I think I like that I can work with. There is a difference between like I like something, meaning showing positive attitude, and I would like to do something, which is about our desire. Would like is more like want, and I'm sure that Mirzabek knows this, but it's just, he started I would say, and then maybe he got stuck in his head like I would like. But there is, just looking at the language, there is that mistake between I would like versus I like.
Children, because they are entertaining and they can give me energy to like work.
Again, pronunciation does feel a little bit staccato here. They can give me energy to work. What we find with a natural flow of speech is that the person who's speaking doesn't need to access the language. And sometimes when language doesn't come so quickly to a person's brain, like when I'm speaking right now, I'm not thinking about the words that I'm choosing. It's just emerging from me. But sometimes you can kind of hear when a speaker is always trying to think of the next word in front of them. And so there does seem to be a small issue with the candidate, just how quickly he can access that language. It just feels a little bit like he's reaching for the next word, and that's interrupting the flow of his speech.
And yeah, that's basically the most pleasure thing that can give me.
That's basically the most pleasure thing that can give me. Yeah, just not very precise, not very accurate there. That's basically the most pleasure thing that can give me. Don't know what the candidate is reaching for. I know that Mirzabek speaks English very, very well. Maybe I don't know if he's trying too hard or what, but just not very accurate language there.
During my work.
And is there anything? But I hope, as the test goes on, candidate will start to relax and start to produce more natural language. You find difficult about your job?
Well, I would say that the time I spend for my work is kind of like exhausting because
The time I spend for my work, okay. The time I spend on my work is better. Is exhausting, cool.
it drains me so much.
It drains me, good precise vocab.
I work from 8 until 9 p.m.
That sounds strange, right? I work from 8 until 9 p.m. It sounds like he works for 1 hour a day. I know he means I work from 8 in the morning till 9 at night, from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. But when you say like I work from 8 to 9 p.m., it sounds like you work for 1 hour a day. But that's okay. That's not a problem. Linguistically, that's not a problem.
And because I have groups back to back and
Cool. Love this back to back. Very nice.
classes, and I would say that the process itself is tiring.
Love this use of itself. The process itself is tiring. Again, a lot of people know this adjective tired with the ed ending, right? How do you feel? I'm tired. How many people know this tiring? Not that many people. Good.
And that would be like disadvantageous for me. Yeah.
Do you think you'll still be working here in 5 years?
Well, I'm not sure exactly. However, if I
Bit of a have ever. We get that. Should be however, not have ever. We just hear a little bit of that have ever. Sometimes candidates from Uzbekistan and also speak Eastern Europe, sometimes they mix up their w and the v. Just listen to this pronunciation of however. You tell me if you hear it however.
however, if I
However, just slightly off. Slightly.
if I want like find a new job or like other opportunities,
A little bit of hesitation, right? Is it content based or is it language based?
or like other opportunities, I would surely be working here.
Would definitely is probably better than would surely. Sure, it's always difficult to explain this exact meaning of surely, but I think the candidate is looking for definitely. I would certainly, but not. I don't think surely works here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your neighbors now. Do you have a lot of neighbors?
Yeah, in fact, I live in a neighborhood. Like I live in a village, but I am surrounded in like rural area. That's
I'm surrounded in a room. I'm surrounded by. I don't know. I'm surrounded in a rural area. Not quite sure, but I like this rural area. It's nice. Horrible word to pronounce too, isn't it? Rural. Rural. Sounds like Scooby Doo.
why I have a lot of neighbors. Yeah.
And how often do you speak to your neighbors?
Um, Considering the time I'm at home, I don't speak to them that much because
Not sure about that considering the times that I'm at home, I don't speak to them that much. Not sure. Considering is used differently.
like I said, I spend most of my time at work. However, if I see
Again, however, just a little however.
them on the street, I would surely like talk for like
Again, I would certainly, better than I would surely.
2 3 minutes, exchange greetings like that, things like that.
Okay, exchange greetings for 2 or 3 minutes. That's a long time to exchange greetings, but I still like this exchange greetings. Very nice language. Candidate's vocab, I must say, is very impressive. And have you ever had any problems with your neighbors?
Mm, I
But this type of hesitation at the beginning of the sentence, absolutely no problem. Just thinking, well, have I really had any problems? That type of hesitation, no problem at all with that.
can't recall right now, but
Cool, love this use of recall.
maybe I had like some kind of small disagreements.
Cool, that's the perfect word there. Some small disagreements.
I think I had like an argument with my neighbor about the noise they made.
Very nice. Have an argument with somebody in the past, had an argument. Very nice.
And it wasn't that big, so
Love this use of that as an intensifier. It wasn't that big. Like it wasn't very big. It wasn't so big. It wasn't that big. Very natural.
yeah, I think it's pretty much that all my arguments with my neighbors.
Good use of pretty much too. Very natural.
It was one time only.
Now let's move on and talk about singing. Are you good at singing?
Nah.
Really like that response. A very natural. Nah. I really like it, and it shows intonation too. It's better than no. Nah.
Not at all. I'm
Not at all. Very nice.
not good at like singing, and I would say I'm good at listening, not singing, because to be honest, I don't like my voice. And
Again, voice, pronunciation is okay, right, with voice, or does it sound a bit like voice? Let's listen.
I'm good at listening, not singing, because to be honest, I don't like my voice.
It is a very soft ver, isn't it? I know, like, in Russian, they have this sound v, as in like vodka or vika or I don't know, whatever. Um, but the Russian v, and this is true for most consonants in Russian. I don't know if Mirzabek speaks Russian, but he's from Uzbekistan, and certainly the Russian language has had a big influence on on the linguistic landscape in Uzbekistan, and so some of those features might be similar. That Russian v is softer than the English v. We have a strong voice, whereas the Russian v, it sounds a bit more like voice. Again, is that a big issue? No, not really. But sometimes if you notice problems with v and w over and over, it could be a little bit of evidence for an examiner to say, well, maybe the phonological range isn't quite full, it isn't quite perfect.
And I can't like be in the rhythm to sing. That's why I don't like
I can't be in the rhythm to sing. Not the most precise language, but okay, I understand the meaning.
singing at all.
And have you ever sung in public?
Nah, 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 nah.
Again, very nice reaction, very natural.
I wouldn't do that because I'm a
Again, I wouldn't do that. Nice hypothetical mood there.
shy person from my nature. In addition to that, I can't sing at
Nice linking. In addition to that, very nice.
all. So it's not possible for me to sing in the public, for sure. Yeah.
And did you have to do a lot of singing when you were at school?
We didn't have any like singing
Again, intonation, it's okay, but pronunciation does feel a little bit staccato. A little bit.
or dancing classes. We only had art class. That's why I think I wasn't
That's natural. That's good and connected.
like forced to do singing. And
Nice passive there. Wasn't forced to do singing. Very nice.
to be honest, I think I didn't even know about like singing when I was young.
Good position of even. Also, I didn't even know. Nice focus adverb. I didn't even know. Very nice. Very natural.
Because the songs were like not that popular at that time.
Thank you. Now,
All right, so some comments on part one. I like the candidate's enthusiasm, his willingness to speak at length, absolutely fine. I think the length of his answers generally is good. Good connectives, like he uses, however, in addition. Vocab is very, very strong, grammatically very accurate. I haven't heard any major grammar mistakes yet. Maybe, was there one or, there might have been one or two. A couple of odd choices with like considering the time I spend at home, not much. Yeah, not quite. So some slightly inaccurate bits. In terms of grammatical range, not too much range. Accuracy of grammar has been very, very good. I haven't really noticed any major grammar mistakes. In terms of range of grammar, though, it might be nice to have something more. Like he said, oh, maybe I had one argument with them. Like I might have had one argument, might be better. This like past modal, that might be, just one area where I think, well, maybe you could have used something else. But yeah, so far so good. That's all I'll say. So far so good. Candidate certainly seems to be at that like band 7 level. Let's see how he does in part 2. And his task here is to speak about a time when he was sick. This is a past narrative task 2, so there are lots of opportunities to score here for grammatical range. We can get our past simple, our past continuous, our past perfect, our past perfect continuous. We could have past passive forms, we could have past infinitive, perfect infinitives, we could have some past modals, reported speech, sequence of tenses. IELTS speaking task 2, if you have described a time when you and something happened in the past, great opportunity to score points for grammatical range. The theme is sickness, symptoms, things like this. So we would expect to hear, we might get words like I don't know, stomach ache or a sore throat or runny nose, things like this. Yeah, let's see how the candidate manages this task.
Time talk, and I will let you know when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Okay, thank you. So a couple of months ago, in the middle of winter, I think it was in January.
Again, I think it was in January. Maybe it must have been January. That might help you to get like a higher score for grammatical range, right? It must have been January rather than I think it was January. Nothing wrong with I think it was January, but if you're trying to improve your range, it must have been January is better.
Approximately.
Approximately, very nice.
I had flu. So
usually with flu, we use the flu. I know it's a strange thing, right? I have a cold, I had a cold, but I had the flu. Why do we do that? I don't know. It's just weird. Sometimes rules with articles are weird. I had a cold, but I had the flu.
like it's common to get sick during winter and get flu. So I am myself I myself struggle so much during winter times because
Yeah, it's strange because he started by talking about the time in the past when he got the flu 2 months ago, and now he's going back into the present with like, I struggle so much when I have the flu. I would say, if you're going to try to mix up the present and the past, maybe give a little bit of background information at the beginning, like so maybe start in the present and then just stay to the past after that. So an introduction like, well, like most people, I usually get sick in the winter. Most people, often get a cold or sometimes they get the flu, and this actually happened to me 2 months ago. And then just stick to the past. I don't like it so much when candidates, they're in like narrative mode and then talking in general and then going back into the past and then talking in general. For me, it's slightly strange organization.
I get easily sick. So yeah. So
So now we're moving back into the past, I guess.
the sickness was, as I said, flu, and it was very hard for me to cope with it.
Cool to cope with it. Very nice topic specific language. A lot of people focus so much, don't they, on like super difficult, complicated, long words. But for me, things like I had to cope with it, cope with something, that's an example of really, really strong vocab.
Because I can't endure much pain and the symptoms of
Cool. I can't endure much pain. Very nice.
this particular sickness. So the symptoms was quite
Symptoms was or symptoms were?
unique for me at the time. To be honest,
It feels a little bit like the candidate is talking around the subject a little bit. I'd just like him to talk about, when this happened, a bit of extra information, what the sickness was, a bit of extra information, what the symptoms were, some details, some specific details about symptoms. I think he does talk about specific symptoms.
felt the symptoms for the first time.
Says I felt these symptoms for the first time. So hasn't mentioned what the symptoms were yet, but he will get there.
Because the previous times that I had been flu, I didn't
Cool attempt at past perfect. Previous times that I had been flu, but we don't be flu in English. You have the flu in English. So the previous time that I had, I know it sounds strange to use had, but this is just past perfect. The previous time that I had, that I had, that I'd had, that I'd had, that I had, but not had been. But an attempt at past perfect.
feel like that at all. That's why it was strange for me. So yeah, first of all, the sickness started from headache.
Why wait, first of all, I don't, that's strange sequence. First, I guess he's talking about the sequence of the symptoms. That's fine.
And
So started from a headache, good topic specific language, but okay, headache, it's a word that most people know.
after a couple of days, it went on to my throat.
Went on, it went to my throat, maybe.
I got sore throat, and
Cool, I got a sore throat. Pronunciation of sore throat isn't perfectly clear there, but I can work it out. And sore throat, again, very good vocab.
All of my joints started to ache,
Cool, joints and aching, again, very, very high level vocab.
and like I couldn't walk at all. I was kind of bedridden, and
Bedridden, all good stuff.
I couldn't do anything. I was out of energy. So as a result, I was worried. My mom was worried, and she suggested me to like take medicine.
So suggest somebody to do something. It's not really a verb pattern that we use in English. Suggest that somebody should do something is probably the construction that should be used with suggest, or just change the verb, like she advised me to do something, or she told me to do something, or she recommended doing something. There are other alternatives, but we don't usually use suggest somebody to do something in English. So it's an attempt, again, another attempt at a complex bit of grammar, but it's just gone wrong a little bit.
In first of all, and she suggested me to
And then we get this repeated suggested me to.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe the balance of part 2 isn't quite there. Like, you look at the pink stuff, he spent a lot of time talking about the pink stuff, but not really much about what you did to make yourself feel better. Now, really you only have to respond to the prompt. You don't necessarily have to respond to each question. And he did a good job of describing a time when he was sick. A lot of really, really high level vocab there. And again, the grammar is mostly accurate, but there are some attempts at complex grammar that just go bad a little bit, like the last time when I had been flu instead of when I had the flu. But it is the correct usage of past perfect there. It's just the wrong verb, so it's probably a vocab thing. And then suggest me to do something. It's not quite the correct verb pattern. So yeah, attempts at complex grammar, but that complex grammar is less accurate than the simple grammar. And that, yeah, grammatically, I think he is probably around 7, because I think his accuracy with controlling basic grammatical forms is very, very strong. Yeah. I think maybe he could have spoken more about what he did to make himself feel better. I think that would have been nicer. Organizing in part 2 is the most important thing, of course. How you use your 1 minute to structure your talk, and can you get that beginning, middle, and end? Can we see noticeable progression? And I think he did a pretty good job of describing a time when he was sick. I feel fairly confident that I could walk away, and if a friend asked, okay, can you tell me about a time when Mirzabek was sick? I feel like I could report that. I could say, yeah, a couple of months ago in January, he had the flu. He doesn't really like the flu because he doesn't cope well with the symptoms. And, at first he had a headache, and then he said he had a sore throat. But it actually became more serious because his joints started hurting and he was bedridden, so he couldn't walk. All of those details are there. So in general, the communicative achievement there is very, very strong. It could have been organized better. There could have been more range with grammar, perhaps. Pronunciation is still a little bit lacking. Fluency, yeah, he does connect his ideas very well. It's just whether there's a natural flow of speech. Yeah, a little bit of hesitation, but he's doing very, very well. Some people wrote in the comments that he deserves a 6. This is not a band 6 candidate. This is a higher than a band 6 candidate for absolute sure. But let's see how he deals with the tricky part 3.
All right. So you've been talking about a time when you were sick. Let's talk about medical professionals now. Firstly, why are doctors and nurses so important?
Well, obviously, it's because in society there are a lot of sicknesses, and people who
I like this. It's because in society there are. It's really. I like those it sentences.
get sick. That's why if everyone gets sick and don't get treated,
If everyone gets sick and doesn't get treated. So get treated is really good. This use of get plus verb third form of the verb, a passive construction, but using get instead of be. For me, that shows good flexibility with grammar. Good stuff.
They obviously will be like, if I say like badly, they die.
Yeah, if I say badly, to put it bluntly, maybe, or might be better if yeah, but they will die, sure.
That's why people like doctors and nurses are needed to like cure them.
Cool. Passive again. Doctors and nurses are needed. Nice.
And in order to like
in order to show purpose, all good linking.
Get order among these sick people. That's why.
And are doctors and nurses well paid in your country?
I think yes.
I think yes. About 10 years ago, that was one of my that was the mistake that frustrated me the most when my students said, I think yes. I never liked it. Like, I think so is fine, or I think plus subject plus auxiliary. Like, I think they are, or I think so, but not I think yes. Nowadays, of course, I'm a much calmer teacher. I don't get so frustrated by mistakes, but still, somewhere inside me, I think yes. I just don't like it.
Compared to other professions, they are quite well paid.
Nice compared to, nice participle there.
I don't know the reason why that is the case. However,
cool. Why that is the case?
I guess that's because doctors and nurses are like a crucial backbone of the country.
Cool. That's because, again, nice clefting. That's because, and the backbone of the country. Maybe an extra clause to explain, why are they the backbone of the country? Sometimes this is obviously a piece of impressive vocab, right? The backbone of the country. But I would like to, whenever candidates use impressive language like this, I want to see them back it up with an extra sentence or an extra clause, just to show that they know what they're talking about, right? They're the backbone of the country, because without them we would be lost. But maybe he's already kind of explained that by saying that people would die without them. But good, the backbone of the country. Very nice.
And also during coronavirus quarantine times, they got paid a lot. So I think it was quite fair based on the work they used to do.
We have some connected speech they're based on, really linking those things. So the candidate does show some elements of connected speech. It's just not sustained throughout the whole test.
And they do.
Connected speech, by the way, is an aspect of pronunciation. You need it for those bands 9, 8, and 7. We definitely need some parts of connected speech. It covers a wide range of things, including sentence stress, chunking, all of that technical stuff. But in short, the candidate, when people speak like this, it is not connected. But when people speak like this, it is connected. And then the examiner has to make that decision about how connected the speech is. And for me, I would say that the candidate has some appropriate chunking and some appropriate features of connected speech, but not sustained throughout the test. And there are some parts or some utterances, some stretches of speech where it becomes a little more disconnected.
Now, apart from medical knowledge, what are some other skills that doctors and nurses should have?
I think they should probably have a
Love this use of probably, good use of modality there. It's a nice little modal adverb. Should probably have
like quick thinking abilities, because it depends. These sicknesses, these disasters and accidents depend mainly on their action.
These disasters depend mainly on their actions. Not sure I quite understand the point there.
Taking how can I say?
And you can kind of see, right, the candidate's facial expression. He knows that he's not explaining this perfectly well. Can he now paraphrase and put the idea forward simply?
Say like thinking abilities, because during those times they should think quickly and make their decisions in order to save the patient. So
okay, I understand the main idea.
So I think that's the main skill that they need apart from medical skills.
And do you think soft skills like communication skills are also important?
Yeah, for sure.
Love this. Yeah, for sure. Good intonation.
communication is key, especially when they
Nice use of key. Also, communication is key. Very nice.
when people work with other people, communication is always should be top priority. And I'll give example for that. Among doctors, I think they need to talk a lot with their patients.
So this is an example there of maybe the speech becoming a little bit more disconnected. Just notice it here.
To talk a lot with their patients. Communication is always should be top priority. And I'll give example for that. Among doctors, I think they need to
I think they need to
talk a lot with their patients.
talk a lot with their patients. Talk a lot with their patients. So the intonation and the connectivity of the speech in terms of pronunciation is just a little bit off there. But we see this throughout the test, that there are parts where the connected speech is noticeable, and then there are parts where the speech becomes a little bit more disjointed. It's fine.
And they should console them and during hard times, or even better, they
To console somebody. Very nice.
should give advices.
And again, that v and the w. Notice this, it should be advices with that v, that strong v. Candidate says advices. Just notice it here.
Advices.
And also, of course, like all good English teachers know, advice is an uncountable noun in English. It doesn't have a plural form. We don't give people advices. We can give people advice, or we can give people different pieces of advice, but we don't give advices. So a couple of problems there. The v and the w, advice versus advice. And also, candidate uses advice in the plural, which again, is it a big mistake? No. Does it stop me from understanding what he's saying? No. But it is still a mistake.
A lot of things depends on the communication and the skill they have, for sure.
Why do you think some people are afraid to go and see a doctor?
Well, I think it's associated with their trauma from
Cool, nice passive again. It's associated with.
their childhood. Imagine
And also a good collocation, associated with. All good.
when you go to doctor, when you went to doctor as a child.
Again, when you vent, the was sound like a v and the v's sound like a w. So there are some noticeable, I think, problems with the candidate's v and w.
And I got vaccination from a big needle, and it was quite a pain. And that's why I think when they grow up, they tend to develop
Well, they tend to develop all good stuff.
this kind of trauma. That's why they're afraid to go. Other than that, I think it's a realization that they are sick. I mean that.
That's an interesting point.
When you realize that you are sick, it would be quite a blow to yourself. That's why.
Yeah, a bit more development there. I mean, why might it be a blow? Maybe some people really don't want to believe that they're sick, and they convince themselves, they tell themselves everything is going to be fine, everything's okay. But then when they go to the doctor and they get that confirmation, you can't argue with it. So maybe a little bit more explanation might have been useful there.
Mm-hmm. And do you think health
But the answer I still think was very, very strong.
care should be free?
Yeah, I think that it should definitely be free, because not everyone has a capacity to pay for their health.
Cool, have a capacity to do something. Definitely getting a bit more range of grammar. It's strong now. Not everyone has a capacity to do something. I'm just thinking, is there enough in there for the band 8? Certainly he's at band 7 level for grammar. But okay, for me, closer to a 7 than an 8, but maybe, one or two, we have a couple of answers left, a few more pieces of accurately used complex grammar, and I will be closer to the 8.
And for example, I can say in America and UK, there are people.
No, healthcare is free in the UK. In America, it's very expensive, but in the UK, it's free.
People that are struggle to get treatment from doctors, I think.
Not in the UK. You might have to wait a little bit of time. But okay, this isn't, as an examiner, I'm not judging you on your knowledge of the UK's health system. No problem.
I have heard about that a lot, and however, in contrast, in my country, in
Just seems to be speeding up and panicking a little. However, in contrast, in my country, just it seems to be rushing a little bit.
there are people that are struggle to like get treatment from doctors. I think I have heard about that a lot. And however, in contrast, in my country, in Uzbekistan, it's free, and people don't like and don't struggle to be healthy, I can say. And I think it is.
Yeah, this answer just seems a little bit chaotic. I think, just simplify it. So, in some countries like the USA, healthcare isn't free and it's very expensive. So, not everyone has the capacity to pay for it, which means it can be very difficult to get treatment from a doctor. However, in my country, it's pretty easy to see a doctor for free. Sure, maybe the quality isn't the highest in the world, but, at least you get some treatment. That would be just a nice simplified. And I know it's not useful advice to say simplify or calm down or give a more organized answer, because we all know that we should give organized answers. But sometimes it certainly feels like candidates try to do a little bit too much, or they have too many ideas in their mind and they're trying to get them out. In general, I think the candidate has explained most of his ideas well, but I do notice that there are some answers that maybe just feel a little bit chaotic, like the candidate has too many ideas.
Human trade, like to get treated for free.
And finally, how do you think hospitals might change in the future?
Well,
Again, well instead of well.
Looking at the change right now, I think it's gonna be like there are gonna be.
And again, you see this reformulation. It's certainly affecting the fluency. Again, the candidate does speak at length. He's willing to develop his answers. He develops his answers long. But just notice the reformulation work here, the repair work.
Change right now, I think it's gonna be like there are gonna be.
I think it's gonna be there are gonna be. So we don't want too much of that. It is natural to have these types of disfluencies. Even L1 users or native speakers speak like this from time to time. So having some of these disfluencies, fine, but we don't want too many of them. And again, sometimes simplifying the idea can result in more fluent speech.
A lot of robots that replace humans. I think hospitals will be quite different from
Yeah, we have gonna be, we have will be.
now in 50 years. I mean, there are even now machines that do surgeries, heart transplants, and kind of things.
Well, surgery is usually an uncountable noun. Like operation is countable, so like they do operations, but they do surgery. We could use surgeries in the plural, but it has usually then a different meaning. But again, I just think calm down. In the future, I think we will see more AI, so we might have some robots that perform operations such as heart transplants. That's fine.
Operations like that. So yeah, that would be the first change that comes to mind when we think about the future image of hospitals, right?
Yeah, but summarizing that would be the first. So, I don't need candidates to summarize too much their points of view, their answers. So that would be the first thing that comes to mind. This sounds to me like padding. Padding is when we give like a lot of information, like unnecessary information, either at the beginning or at the end. And generally, a little bit of padding is okay, but I don't like too much, right? If someone says, "What do you do in your free time?" Normal answer, I play my guitar quite often, and sometimes I watch movies. My favorite director is David Lynch. That's fine. Padding would be, oh, in my free time. Well, my free time kind of have a lot of free time, and well, I don't have so much free time, but I had more free time in the past, I guess. But I suppose nowadays I watch a lot of movies, but I don't know if it's like movie, because it's like sometimes it's movies, but like it's also sometimes TV shows. Now, I don't think the candidate does too much of this padding, but it is a little bit noticeable that, so that would be the first thing that comes to mind when I talk about changes in the future. Okay, not terrible, but I like content that is relevant to the question. That should be 80% of your speech, and then a bit of 20% padding or 10% padding is fine.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of the test.
All right, so a really nice speaking test. I enjoyed speaking with Mirzabek. Seems like a really nice, genuine guy. Knows the test very well. He's taken IELTS before, and he works as an IELTS instructor. So, it's a person who's very familiar with the test. But let's have a look at some scores here. So, fluency and coherence, I'm going to award the 7 here, I think. And let's put some things. So, in general, you show a good willingness to speak at length. Your answers are generally relevant to the topic, and you connect your ideas very well with a very impressive range. Whether it's contrasters or reason or purpose, you use that in order to. However, in addition, all of those connectives, very, very strong. At times, the reformulation, padding, and hesitation is noticeable. I think that's what stops you from getting to an 8. It doesn't feel like there's like a very natural flow of speech. At times, this hesitation, mid-sentence hesitation, is quite noticeable, but I do think you have enough for a 7 there. Lexical resource 8, despite some minor, and that's what stops you from getting the 9. Despite some minor, let's say, odd choices, like you use that, like considering the time that I spend at home, and I think you said like spend time for something instead of spend time on something, and there were just a couple of minor, just slightly unnatural choices. Nothing that makes me not understand what you're saying, but just some choices where it's like, it's not quite naturally worded. So despite some minor odd choices, your vocab is really impressive, and you show an amazing ability to use a wide range of topic-specific language. You use language that's basic, you use vocab that's very detailed and very precise, less known vocab. Your collocations in general are very, very strong, like associated with and things like this. I definitely think you have enough for an 8. You're not a million miles away from the 9. I will be honest, you're not a million miles away from the 9, but for me, 8 is probably the most suitable score for lexical resource. Grammatical range and accuracy, you are close to the 8 here, but I'm going to award a 7. So your accuracy is good, despite a couple of minor mistakes. I think you said like everyone know instead of everyone knows or something like this. Despite a couple of minor mistakes, you control basic grammar very well. You make attempts. Let's put that. You make attempts at more complex grammar. You're trying to use these verb patterns, somebody to do something. You try to use this past perfect. You make attempts at more complex grammar, but these are slightly less accurate. And so for that reason, I think 7 is better. You know, having more accuracy with that complex grammar, that might push you to an 8. You certainly do have nice bits of complex grammar in there too. Like you had that participle, like they are very high paid compared to, you know, is that an adjunct, a conjunctive adjunct, is that what it's called? I don't know. Or is it a participle clause? Okay, it could be considered both, but regardless, you do have some good bits of complex grammar in there. But for me, it is noticeable that when you try to use that more complex grammar, it's not quite as well controlled as the simple stuff. Not a million miles away from the 8, I will say that. And pronunciation, I think there is enough in there for a 7. So again, you have some noticeable issues with the and w. You know, I noticed that quite a few times throughout the test. There are also some moments when your speech, especially when your fluency breaks down, when your speech becomes a little disjointed. But for me, there is enough evidence of appropriate intonation and chunking, the way that you group words together. Over the course of the test, there is enough evidence for me that I can probably award that 7. You know, I do think you have all of the positive features of band 8, but some, but not all. Sorry, all of the positive features of band 6, but some, but not all of the features of band 8, which, you know, puts you at a 7. The pronunciation is clear. It's easy enough to understand pretty much everything you're saying. A couple of words maybe were lost, like the way you pronounced sore throat was a little bit off, but you know, I think you just about have enough for 7 in pronunciation. So overall, to cap it off, fluency and coherence, I think you have a good 7. Lexical resource, I think you have a strong 8. Grammatical range and accuracy, I think you have strong 7. Pronunciation, I think you have a weak 7. So if you're looking for areas to improve, you know, fluency and coherence, grammatical range and accuracy, those are the ones that you have a good chance of boosting up to an 8. I don't think you'll get 8 for pronunciation, but fluency and coherence, grammatical range and accuracy, you could get 8 for those ones. Excuse me. Any areas to work on? Well, there's not much. At times, your answers, not always, but at times your answers feel a little bit chaotic with some padding. Try to eliminate that. Focus on simple ideas, and make sure that a large majority of your language directly responds to the question. You know, we don't need so much of that stuff with that. And so that would be the first thing that comes to mind when I have to give an answer about the predictions about what hospitals might look like in the future. All of that is padding. We want to stay on topic, make those predictions. Anything else? I can't really. I mean, vocab's great. Fluency and coherence, you could improve grammatical range and accuracy. I don't know if I will say that in part 2, if you have a task that asks you to talk about the past, think about how you can activate past tenses, past modals, maybe perfect infinitives, reported speech. You know, you're a teacher. You know this grammar inside out, probably. You know those rules. And so finding, you know, understanding that, oh, this door is open now. I can activate this grammar. That could help. And maybe also in part 2, learning how to use your time appropriately. Or just come up with and follow a specific strategy for part 2, which will help you to structure your talk better. You know, think about what an introduction might be, what the body might be, how you might end it, how you can manage your time to make sure that you are covering all of the prompts. Time management in part 2 is very, very important. Again, there are lots of strategies out there, but, you know, come up with a structure, come up with a strategy and stick to it. I don't know if I've made a video, have I, on this channel about structuring part 2? Maybe I'll make a video just with a simple structure, very, very easy to follow. But I do notice a lot that candidates, the speech does seem a little bit disorganized in part 2. But overall, a very, very good effort, right? Overall, we have a score of 7.0, 7.25, but that brings it down to 7.0. I fully expect the candidate with a bit of preparation, I think the candidate will probably get 7.5. I don't think he'll get 8, but I really think he will get 7.5 or 7.0. I don't think he'll get less than 7, but that's my opinion. Yeah. So I guess I'll leave that there. Let me know what you think. Am I too generous with my marking? Am I too harsh with my marking? Yeah, let me know. Anyway, if you would like your own free practice IELTS speaking test with feedback, or if you would like me to check your IELTS writing tasks, you can request this on my Telegram channel, Expert Examiner. A link to this Telegram channel is given in the description below. But I will leave it there for now. Have a wonderful day. See you all again soon, and bye-bye.